Hogstye.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the post-draft edition of the Hogstye. Steve and I are recording on Sunday. No Jamal, because I think he has a life and does things on Sunday.
Whereas we do not.
Whereas we do not. I actually had a fun little Saturday, but I won't get. My brother surprised me. He was driving down from Vermont to visit friends in Richmond. He's like, I'm just going to stop off and have dinner with you guys, which was nice.
Well, that's nice. But I'm even more pathetic than you, though, because I'm not even a fan of this team anymore. And here I'm sitting here talking about it.
Yeah, that's a whole.
I'm really a fan of talking about football more than I am actually this
You
team.
love talking football. You do love talking stats and numbers and all that weird stuff, and the business side of it. There is still that addiction. I know it's there.
If I could ever find somebody who was consistent and willing to do like an all NFL show, I would definitely do that.
Right. Although we've tried that before and it didn't always work out.
Yeah, but the problem is you're the one who's consistent.
Right. Consistency is everything in life. People don't understand. I think that's one thing that kids are not taught well as children, like by schools or whoever. 90% of being good at a job is just showing up. So
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't swear to 90, but certainly the bulk of it is showing up, being consistent, and being trustworthy.
Yeah. And trustworthy, a little different than, hey, I screwed up, like just admitting it and all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, what I'm talking about is you're there, you're going to do what you say you're going to do.
Right.
And you're going to do your job the best you can. And you do that. And like you said, for the most part, it'll work out. And that's the philosophy that Ron Rivera seems to have in his draft classes.
Yeah.
Is he consistently avoids sleazeballs like Darius Geis, and who was the safety, the corner that he cut.
The
first one. Anyway,
the guy I really liked.
Yeah, him. I mean, he got rid of him in 5 seconds.
Yeah,
him, Dunbar. And then, Deschanger Everett, all that whole situation gone. Ron Rivera does not like people like that. He likes high character people, and it showed in last year's draft class. It showed in this year's draft class. So right. Ron Rivera is a guy who subscribes to that theory, I think, definitely.
Yes, and we could go on a whole other tangent about how there's this generation now of athletes who are not into that, and it's a problem. But we won't today. That might be an IJB topic for it instead.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Obviously, this whole episode, we're just going to be talking draft. So if you don't want to hear about the draft, I don't know why you're listening. Washington, first off, Steve, I want to just get your quick reaction. Like, give me a gut reaction grade for how they played the draft out. Not necessarily the players, because, we don't know how they're going to work out for 3 years, as is the rule. But
just generally speaking.
Yeah. What did you think about what Washington did?
I thought it was kind of a B-, C+ sort of draft. Nothing really blew me away. I thought we'll get to Sam Howell, but I thought that was an outstanding pick. I didn't like some of it. I liked some of it. I thought was just Jahan Dotson. I kind of think they played themselves a little bit, with the trade down and all that. We'll get to that. So yeah, it was a decent draft. Like as objectively as I can be, because I'm far more objective about this now than I used to be.
Right.
I think it was okay, but not great.
So I think it was okay too. A lot of people I think were upset after they traded down, and you saw a lot of big names go between 11 and 16.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Just in my opinion, they needed more numbers. They hadn't made any real moves after Carson Wentz got traded for. And so they needed more than, I think they had 5 picks initially going in. Is that right?
No, it was 6 because they had.
Oh, right. 2 7th rounders. So 6. Yeah. So you had 6. You come out with 8. That to me is a win. You always want to come out with more picks or as many picks as possible. Building through the draft, I'm a big believer in it. And that's just, a core part of it is try and have more than 7 guys come off the board.
Well, I mean, for me, I think Washington is a team that needs a difference maker.
Mm,
And I think the two difference makers that were realistically in their range were Kyle Hamilton and Drake
sure.
London because of his size. And Drake London became
Went
not an
early.
option,
Yeah.
understand. But Kyle Hamilton was there. And there are lots of receivers. They could have drafted somebody else. So I think that they kind of blew it by drafting Kyle Hamilton. And in the back of my, I have no evidence of this and no basis for saying this. Just my gut feeling is that they kind of thought they were going to get Hamilton at 16, and then the
Mm,
Ravens stole him out from under him. And listen, it's telling the Ravens are a real team,
yeah.
not a stupid fake team like Washington. And so and they have an outstanding scouting department. When and I mean this is the team of Ed Reed, and they drafted Kyle Hamilton. That ought to tell you something.
Yeah. I mean, look, no question. I think Hamilton would have been a great pick if they
Yeah,
had gone that direction. They could have gone Hamilton, Olave,
Olave. Yeah,
who was picked at 11, and there was one other receiver left, right? The guy from Alabama.
yeah,
Uh,
him.
yeah,
Jamison Williams.
yeah. But from what I've seen, people have said, well, he's probably going to be redshirted this year now, even though he says he's healthy. He's not going to be 100%.
He's not healthy.
Yeah. Look, it takes a lot to come back from ACLs and stuff. Uh, so playing it slow with
Well,
him
it
is going to
happened. Don't forget when it happened. It happened in the national championship game.
right, right. Yeah.
Okay,
It would
yeah.
take him a
So
lot.
the Garrett Wilson was the other guy. He got drafted at 10.
Right. See, I'm
Uh,
not mad if someone went before they could have gotten him. I'm not going to be mad about
Yeah,
that.
it's like, what are you going to do? I mean, I get that.
Right.
But the guys they passed on that Washington fans will have to watch out for: Chris Olave and Jamison Williams.
Right.
Those are the two guys, and yeah, those two. And then Traylon Burks they passed on. He was the other one.
Right.
Traylon Burks got picked
Right
at
after them.
18.
Yeah.
Yeah, 18.
Oh,
So
yeah, two spots later.
yeah,
But all right, let's look at Dotson though.
okay.
You see his size, not a big guy, 5'11", right? Or 5'10 and a half, which somewhere around average human height. Um, so he's a smaller receiver. He's got some decent speed, good game speed. I know he ran the 4.4 something in the 40, like a low 4.4. But when you watch him in highlights and you watch him play, he has what I would call at least NFL speed. Maybe not, Deshaun Jackson or, break the top off speed, but he's good there. It sounds like the selling point for Rivera and company is that he has a very high catch rate ratio, like one of the highest of all the receivers in this class, in terms of if the ball's close to him, he gets it. Very low drop percentage and all that stuff, and that sounds like it was the big selling point for them, which is interesting.
Yeah, well, you meant catch radius, not ratio. Ratio would be drop percentage,
Sorry,
basically. But yeah.
radius. Yes.
Regardless, yeah.
Yes.
So he ran the 40 in 4.43 seconds, 36 for inch vertical leap.
That's pretty
Standing
good.
broad up was 10.1, not great for a receiver in that. I mean, he had averaged 15.1 yards per catch in college
Yeah.
overall, which is outstanding. I think Dotson, like I said, kind of think no matter what they say now, I do think they sort of played themselves a bit and they expected some other folks to be available. But regardless, I do like Dotson. For when I watched of him, and I have not done a full film analysis of him, or I didn't have time, but I did watch some film of him.
Yeah.
Yeah, his hands are amazing. His route running, outstanding. He's got like NFL. He reminds me of Terry McLaurin in that regard. Coming out of college, very high football IQ.
Yeah.
Outstanding route running. So he's a guy I think that works for Ron Rivera. And here's the thing. Here's where I think he fits best. I don't think Dotson is a number one X receiver on the outside. I think that he's too small for that. I think he's in today's NFL not quite fast enough for that. But I think he's a perfect complement to Terry McLaurin. This guy is a classic Z receiver with his height and with his speed being, again, it's ridiculous, but I mean, a touch lower than you would want in today's NFL. I think the Z, which for those of you who don't know, is the outside receiver on the other side who lines up off the line of scrimmage. That's what
Right.
the Z is. And I think he's perfect for that. Now, Drake London would have been perfect in every role, but that's neither here nor there. So, but yeah, Dotson, I think, is a combination of Terry McLaurin and Deshaun Jackson a little bit. He's got Deshaun Jackson's body type, but not anywhere close to his speed. And
I see a
he's,
little bit of Santana Moss in him too.
yeah, that might be a better comparison. Yeah.
Because at least what I saw from watching just a bunch of little, Penn State fan clips of him and stuff like that, he's really good on screenplays and bubble screens and all that stuff. And anytime I see a guy do that, it just Santana Moss comes right back to my mind.
Well, and the reason he is good at that is if you watch his eyes, watch what he does with his head.
Yeah.
He repeatedly dupes these safeties
Mm-hmm.
over and over and over and over. And that's what I'm saying. I'm throwing that into kind of the route running bucket as a general rule, but he's suckered many a college safety doing exactly what you're suggesting. So I think he was a good pick for Washington. Certainly in the middle
I don't know what
one.
to call that because I guess route running is not technically right. I don't know. It's kind of like it's like running back vision is what it is really. He's got that vibe where he knows where the holes are going to be once he has the ball in his hand, that kind of thing. So
again, I'm personally throwing that into the route running bucket.
Yeah.
You're right. Might not be the right thing, but
yeah,
I think Donson is the guy. And by the way, I mean, he's intelligent, he's humble, soft spoken. He's got a solid family behind him. What I don't like about receivers, and this is just my opinion, I don't like the flashy guys.
Mm-hmm.
It just bothers me, and I think that people from stable family lives tend to have a lot fewer idiots around them, than the people who don't.
Sure.
And I think that helps. I like the fact that he's not a hometown kid, because I don't think Chase Young is well served by being in Washington.
No,
people constantly fawning
I can
over
understand
him.
that part.
Yeah. So I think he's a good kid. I mean, again, I think there's not a fear. I think he's a good player, but I think the downside kind of is he's got a lot of good, quote unquote good, but not a lot of quote unquote great. I think that's his problem.
He's got a high floor, low ceiling is kind of.
Yeah. But I mean, I think truly like his destiny is the other receiver. I think he needs to have a Terry McLaurin on the other side.
But at the same time, Terry McLaurin's been needing a second threat desperately.
Absolutely. That's why I said I think it's a great pick by Washington, even regardless of the Kyle Hamilton or whatever. Doesn't matter. Yeah. I think he was a great pick for Washington expressly because of Terry McLaurin.
Right. And did we go through his stats last year? I don't remember.
Last year I didn't. So last year I played 12 games, 91 receptions in 12 games, which is a lot. 1,182 yards, 13.0 yards per catch, 12 touchdowns, and he was a first-team All Big Ten selection.
Yeah, pretty impressive. Also, looking at it, he did a little bit of run the ball, not much, so he's not going to be that guy. I don't.
Yeah,
think.
No.
He's not going to be what Samuel is for us, or Samuel is for the 49ers, or who. There's all these Samuels, and all they do is pretend to be running back receivers.
Well, that's it. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. But I don't.
By the way, sweet cone drill. By the way, 7.28, not good. And so that tells you that like the top 3 cone drill times you're going to see are in the mid sixes.
Yeah. So the one thing that interests me with him. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. You want to?
Oh, I was going to say that I think that makes me concerned about his burst. That's what I was trying to say.
Sure.
Anyway, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and this actually plays into that a little. A lot of the critiques I saw of him is at his height, he is not really a natural fit in the slot, and burst would be a big part of that, because one of the keys to really being a good slot receiver is that burst off the line to kind of fake out the corner or whoever's covering you, safety, corner, linebacker, and getting open in short time.
Either that or you got to be a giant like Cam Sims.
Yeah.
And he's neither one of those. Yeah, that's kind of that's sort of why I said he's got a lot of good but not great, because he's not Deshaun Jackson. He looks kind of like Deshaun Jackson. He kind of has on the field plays a little bit like him, I think, but he's not anywhere near a burner like that. He's not going to be a burner by NFL standards. And I think you're exactly right. It's like you have a guy that small, You really want him to be a burner, and he's not.
Right.
That's the downside. So
Right.
for that reason, I think I agree with you totally. I don't think he's really a slot receiver. It's not to say they won't line him up there or whatever sometimes, but he's not like a consistent slot receiver, I don't think.
No. I mean, look, honestly, when they want to use a slot receiver with the guys they have, I'm okay if Terry's in the slot a lot. Terry McLaurin has done very well as a slot guy time to time.
Well,
he would be my number one still, but
yeah, I mean, you want to get McLaurin into mismatches, and that's one way to do it.
Yeah. I think he had some of his best big plays last year from that slot position. Which is interesting.
Terry McLaurin is one of the, no matter what anybody says, he's one of the best receivers in football.
Yeah, no question.
He doesn't get enough recognition because of the team he's with, but he truly is. If you put him in like Pittsburgh, he would have been an All-Pro.
Oh yeah, of course. You put him on any team that is respected.
Right, that's right.
And even, how about this? If you put him on a team that isn't necessarily one of those elite teams, but just like a normal everyday, like the Chargers, no one really cares about the Chargers, but their owner,
because you're on the East Coast. The West Coast people do care about them, but go ahead.
Not as much as the Rams or the 49ers, or they're the fourth most important team on the West Coast.
Truthfully, Southern California people almost don't care about pro football, period, I think.
Well, yes, that's also true. You can see that by the number of times teams just keep leaving LA.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah. But I think if Terry McLaurin was on a team where the owner wasn't a constant pain in the ass, he probably would be an All-Pro.
But yeah, I just think it's funny because I did watch this morning. Sorry, I want to make sure my phone. I forgot to mute it. So I watched Julie Donaldson's interview with Dotson this morning, the one that was in the practice bubble. And it was a fine interview, no criticisms, all that. But they were just like pretending, desperately pretending and ignoring the fact that, I mean, they've had a massive scandal, multiple massive scandals. And, in Julie's kind of play on it, which she has to do, and I'm not criticizing her for it, but her play is, well, it's a new day, but it's not really a new day at all.
No.
I just think it's kind of funny that that's the way they have to play it.
You can't move on until there's a conclusion. There's not a conclusion.
It's kind of like she's Baghdad Bob. Do you remember Baghdad Bob?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And for those of you who are too young to remember this, he was, when the Gulf War started in 1991, he was the Iraqi spokesman, and there were multiple scenes of him literally in front of burning buildings. And he would say, "There's not been an attack. We're fine, and nothing's happened."
Right.
And that's kind of what Julie's doing.
He was even around for the second Gulf War, and it was just even sadder because he was now really old.
That's kind of what Julie Donaldson has to do. And again, it's not a criticism. She's been on the show.
No,
I mean, I don't criticize her for it, but I just think it's kind of funny. That's all.
Look, PR is a thankless job at times. All right, let's move on because we have 8 players we got to talk about here.
Oh yeah.
So
that's right.
next, we're just going to go down the list as they were drafted. The next pick, round 2, pick number 47, Phil Mathis, the defensive tackle out of Alabama. Steve is mad. He's pounding his head.
I'm not mad. I think it's so stupid.
Well, it's annoying. It's upsetting in that you had 4 good tackles. You're down to 2. You are talking about trading one away, so now you had to draft a tackle.
It's like, you guys, this team are just so run by morons.
They shot themselves in the foot, flat out.
They drafted intentionally, and granted, it wasn't Ron Rivera, but they did it. 2 first-round picks in a row.
Yeah.
And Matt Ioannidis, who was a third round. Wasn't he a third-round pick? I can't remember. Anyway,
Ioannidis was a 5th rounder.
But he established himself as a starting-level player.
Yeah.
And then you burned another draft pick on Tim Sutton. What do you do? You let them all go. And clearly, I think Deron Payne seems to not have a future in Washington.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, because they didn't pick up. Anyway, it's not the Deron Payne hour, but you're right. I mean, they turned what is a strength into something. Yeah, and so then they have to draft Mathis. And let me tell you something. And I don't have a problem with Mathis as a player. Alabama tends to produce good defensive linemen, but this team is pretending. There's a Baghdad Bob thing going on here.
Too. Yes.
The linebacker room is burning, and they're standing in front of the linebacker room going, "All's well with the linebacker room."
Sure.
They don't have 3 starters.
No.
and
They
Cole
barely have
Holcomb.
3 players.
Yeah, and Cole Holcomb is the middle linebacker. Not a good idea. Um, and they just completely ignored linebacker in this draft. That's one of the reasons I think I lean more towards C instead of B minus now, because they had to draft a linebacker. They just had to, and they didn't. And so
Yeah.
what they could have done if they had bothered to keep Tim Settle, at least Tim Settle, but or Ioannidis, but one of the two of them. But Settle probably would have been cheaper.
Well, here's the
They
thing.
could have
Ioannidis,
drafted a
they still had a
linebacker.
year left on his contract.
Yeah.
You could have renegotiated the contract.
Something. Extended
yeah.
him a couple years, and then they could have drafted a linebacker here
Right.
in round 2, and then really solidified your defense. But did they do that? No, because they have to fix what they intentionally screwed up.
Yeah.
That's why I was shaking my head.
No, and I completely agree with you. They made their own mistake there. Now, on the player, fine. I think he'll be a fine third linebacker or defensive tackle this year, and probably the number
Starter.
2 guy next year,
Right.
because that's what they're planning. I understand that's your plan at defensive tackle. I'm not mad about that being your plan now, because let's be realistic. We knew it was going to be tough to keep all 4 of these first round.
I wrote a column about how they could do it.
Right. But
it was not impossible.
Not impossible, financially very difficult. Like to allocate that much financial resources.
But they definitely could have kept one of those 2 guys, Settle or Ioannidis.
Oh yeah, they definitely could have kept one of them, because Settle only signed for like $4 million or something. He didn't.
Yeah, they could have worked him out. Okay, so Mathis, so that out of the way, that stupidity out of the way. So Mathis is a player, 6'4", 310 pounds, so classic interior lineman size.
Right.
He was at Alabama 5 years, redshirted 2018, played 46 games, which is a lot. That's good. 129 tackles, 10.5 sacks. Last year, 14 games, 53 tackles, 20 solo, 9 sacks, which is again a lot. Second team All SEC.
That's very rare for a defensive tackle to get that many sacks.
Yeah, I thought so. And he didn't run the 40 or do bench press at the combine, but would you care to take a guess at his vertical leap? Understanding he's 6'4" and 310 pounds.
I'm going to be realistic, say 32 inches. I don't know.
23.5. Not a jumper. But
not a jump.
Could you have jumped 23.5 inches when you were 21?
Me?
22? Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a pro athlete. Maybe. I never tried.
My point is that's still a lot, because that's almost 2 feet.
Yeah.
For a dude who's 310 pounds, that's moving.
Yeah.
But here's the thing about him. This is another Ron Rivera character, dude.
Sure.
Crimson Tide permanent captain 2021 season. A lot of these guys are team captains. Ron Rivera likes that kind of thing.
Right.
I think of him. I haven't watched a ton of his film. Don't misunderstand me. But I think, and I know scouts think, he's a very versatile dude. 3'4", 4'3".
Mm-hmm.
You can move him.
His size is perfect for that kind of thing.
Yeah. But I don't think he's a dedicated 3-4 guy. I think they can move him around a little bit, and that's certainly good.
Yeah. Look, I think as a player, he could be a very good player for this team. This whole thing where apparently in his interview he said he was expecting to go in the 4th round. I honestly, I don't. People are making a big deal of that. I don't care. Where you expect to go never matters. Because I got news for you. A lot more guys expect to go in the 1st round and don't than expect to go later and go earlier.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think that Ron Rivera and this scouting staff has exhibited a habit over 2 drafts now where they draft people higher than a lot of scouts and other teams seem to have placed people. Dotson was one of them. And there are others down the line here too. Maybe I didn't pay a lot of attention to defensive line because I thought surely they wouldn't do it. But maybe Mathis is one of those.
Davis last year, though.
Robinson is another one.
Yeah,
we'll get to Robinson. So, I mean, I've always said that I don't care a lot about value in the draft within reason, because if players work out, who cares for how they came here, right? And but I'm just saying their board seems to be different than others.
Well, so I get the feeling, and I might be wrong, that a lot of the boards that, the public sees, which are basically just, ESPN analysts, here's what I think, that's all based off just raw talent. Like 100%, or maybe not 100. It's, hey, this guy's got great numbers. Look at how fast he is, that kind of stuff. I think Ron bases and the staff is basing a lot of it off of interviews and personality and all that kind of stuff. I think their board is really affected by fit.
Oh, I
You
do
know.
too. And I've literally been in the room with one particular team's board,
Mhm.
and I can tell you what it was. They had a room. You can see it in some like the draft room cameras.
Yeah, yeah.
They had a board, grease board on all four walls, and they had from ceiling to floor. They
Right.
had players rated from every school in the country,
Sure.
and they had a number, and they did them all by number. They had, I forget what the scale was, but if it was I'll just make something up. If it was 1 through 10, they'd have a guy at like 8.7.
Right.
And that's how they ranked. And how the ranking went is they had a bunch of factors that fit into it, and every team weighs the factors different. That's why I said you guys who are idiots and keep screaming BPA at the top of your virtual lungs
Right.
don't really know what you're talking about. No team does that. There may be one, two out there, but Alex is right. I think it's what I saw personally was that these teams come up with a score based on factors that the scouting and coaching staff determines. And I think you're totally right. Ron Rivera very heavily weighs character and interviews, and
Yeah.
that's what shows in his drafts.
Yeah. I mean, look, and I think every team's a little different in that. No question. I, we know that like when Scott McLuhan was here, their philosophy was like color based system. Like I remember them talking about, I don't really care if you're using grades as numbers or colors. Like that's just silly
To be
to
clear,
me.
you're not talking about skin color. He was talking about like there were red players and blue
Right,
players.
right,
And,
right, right. Yes,
yeah.
yes, not skin color.
That made him sound like racist.
No, no.
They
Also,
did it by
Scott
color.
McLuhan, the reddest skin of any person.
Yeah, really.
Any white dude.
Looks
Yeah.
like he belonged in a cartoon.
Yes. Yeah. So.
Well, and then he didn't care as much about character either. You
No.
can tell like from the Josh Doxson pick. I'm not saying he had bad character, but he was a guy who, if you'd interviewed enough, you would have known this dude isn't motivated.
Right.
And they didn't know that.
Right. What's interesting is I remember Jay Gruden always placed a high value on it, but I don't think he had any say in the draft when McLuhan was here. So
no, they just told Jay to shut up and coach who they gave him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So anyway, I think Mathis will be a good player. Don't get me wrong. I'm not so worried about him as a player. I am annoyed, like you, that you created a hole and you had to fill that hole very high on the list.
It's just
honestly,
absurd.
I kind of wonder, like, did you have to fill defensive tackle this high? Like, you needed one, but you could have gotten one in the fourth round.
Well, yeah.
Like,
but I think that, could you've gotten a 2023 starter lower? Maybe not.
Maybe not.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Maybe not. Yeah, as a player, I think we said what we're going to say about Mathis. I don't have a problem with him as a player, as a dude.
No,
he'll be fine. He kind of has I hate to say this. Who was the Alabama guy that Washington let go? The
Anderson, Ryan Anderson.
He kind of has a Ryan Anderson vibe to him a little bit, I think.
A little more low key, yeah.
Yeah, but I hope he's a better player than Ryan Anderson was.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we don't know.
The one thing about Ryan Anderson that everyone always talks about is he was the team captain.
Right.
Despite the fact that he had no position and couldn't get on the field, he was the leader in the locker room.
That's what I'm talking about. I think that's Mathis.
Okay.
Hopefully but I think Mathis is a better fit, and hopefully he's a better player.
Well, the problem with Anderson was his body size. He didn't fit any position.
Yeah, he was a tweener. Yeah, he wasn't fast enough. Wasn't big. Yeah, I agree.
He was a tweener who's also athletically not a tweener.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But all right, let's move on to the other Alabama guy, and you already mentioned him, Brian Robinson, the running back that they picked up in round 3 at pick number 98. So this is the, you traded back. You've used your trade back from 11 to get 2 offensive weapons, which that part I like. When you have a new quarterback, get him more running backs, get him a receiver. I like that part of the philosophy. Now, Steve, I haven't had a chance to really watch much of Robinson. Have you?
I watched a little bit of him, but first, because I was curious, if anybody's curious where Ryan Anderson is, he spent 2021 on the offseason or practice squad of the New York Giants and is currently not in the NFL. So For those of you wondering, just doesn't surprise me. I watched a little bit of Brian Robinson. I think I love this pick for Washington. I mean, objectively, love this pick. Yes, because one, most Alabama running backs have a pretty good track record in the NFL. Not all, but most.
Yeah.
But this guy is more of a traditional inside power back. Okay. He's not going to be a receiver. I mean, he did that a little bit at Alabama, but that's sort of not his game. He's a very hard hitter.
Mm-hmm.
He's not afraid of contact. I think he has the exact skill set that Antonio Gibson does not. I think he's kind of a bigger, more heralded version of Jarrett Patterson in that regard. You know, Jarrett Patterson last year by default was sort of their interior hitter guy.
Yeah.
I think Robinson is a classic fullback. I think he's instantly becomes their short yardage back instantly. So I think Robinson was exactly what they need. I think a lot of Washington fans, and again, now I'm more objective, it's a lot easier to say this, overrate Antonio Gibson. Despite the fact that Antonio Gibson had over 1,000 yards last year when he did not the year before, he was much less effective. It was due to number of carries, like volume. And there's certain skill sets that Gibson just isn't good at yet.
Yeah.
I mean, he's new to the running back position. He's not good in the interior between the A gaps. He needs to develop in that regard. And I think Robinson is the opposite. Robinson isn't much a receiver. He's a big dude and he's a hitter and he's an interior runner. And I think if it works out, because you can go get guys like Samaje Perine who didn't work out for Washington, kind of same thing. But if it works out, Washington could have their two-headed monster at running back going forward, and that would be a good thing for the team. But I think that's what Robinson could do.
Yeah, I'm excited about the pick because, look, I think we saw last year with Wentz. Obviously, the Colts relied heavily on the running game, and we don't have a 2,000-yard caliber running back. I'm sorry, Antonio Gibson's not that.
No.
J.D. McKissic, but you're adding J.D. McKissic, probably one of the best receiving running backs. Antonio Gibson, who I know you're critical of him. I understand why. He when used the way he's best, he's a very effective running back.
Yeah, I'm not critical. Yeah. I mean, everybody has strengths and weaknesses, you know. So I don't mean to be overly critical for those of you whose panties are in a wad over what I'm saying. I'm just saying that I don't think treating Antonio Gibson as a traditional A gap power dude is playing to his strengths.
Doesn't make sense.
That's what I'm saying.
He's a slasher.
And I don't think he's good at it.
Right. I said from the last season, I remember saying this about him. Antonio Gibson is kind of like LT in a lot of ways. He's really good if you put him on these slashing out runs and, get him on the edge. That's what you want to do with him. You don't want him going up the middle if you don't have to. But you add Robinson to the mix with those guys, this is a very good running back room now. I'm very happy with that.
He's a big dude, 6'2".
Yeah.
That's big for a running back. Yeah, I think he's a classic NFL running back. And again, I think that's why Washington brought in Jarrett Patterson off the street or off the undrafted free agent street last year.
Well, they needed a guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think this is a big upgrade. And I like Patterson still. I think you put him back on the practice squad in case somebody gets hurt. That's fine. But right now, you've got a three-headed attack at running back that is as good as any other team in the NFL at this point.
Oh, I don't think so. I think it's fair to middling at best. There's a lot of teams that have much better running back rooms. And I think that Washington... I think
there's a lot of teams that have better running backs. I don't know about three deep at running back that well.
Well, I don't think they are three deep. I mean... Right, look, I like Rob. I just got through singing Robinson's praise, but he hadn't done anything in the NFL yet. We don't know if he's going to be good or bad.
That's fair.
Jarrett Patterson, I liked his film in college, but I don't think he's going to be anything more than a backup. J.D. McKissic is almost a full-time receiver. I don't think Washington's running back room is very good, and I think that's clearly why they spent he was the third-round pick, right? Robinson's
third-round pick, yes.
Yeah, right. That's why they drafted a running back and third-round pick. What do you want out of a third-rounder? A starter. That's what you want out of a third-rounder.
And he definitely could be a starter for them.
So, no, I'm not sure Washington's running back room is anything but average at best.
Well, I disagree.
We can disagree. It's fine.
Yeah. I do. All right, let's move on, though. Percy Butler, the safety out of the Louisiana, not LSU. He's a Raging Cajun, not a Tiger. Just to be clear,
Yes.
4-year starter though, right? Or 4-year
Yeah.
player.
4-year. No. Yeah, he was a 4-year player. No, I'll just run through the numbers here.
Yeah.
42 played 42 games, and this is University of Louisiana at Lafayette. If we didn't say it, I think you. I don't know.
Well, I said
Did
Raging
Alex?
Cajuns, which is
Okay. Yeah, that. 42 games, 167 tackles, 107 solo, 9 for loss, through only 3 interceptions. 13 games last year, 60 tackles, 36 solo. Second team All Sun Belt Conference honors. He's a burner. Ran the 40 in 4.36 seconds, so he could torch DeHaan Johnson. 31.5 inches vertical leap, which isn't that great for his position. 10.3 in the standing broad jump. This guy, scouts, I'm not going to pretend that I've watched.
Yeah.
More
and even
than
me who covered or did the safeties, I didn't think to go to like look at Raging Cajun.
Kind of an example of a guy who's probably overdrafted by Washington just because they like him, which is they have the right to do. What he's really known for, elite special teams performer. That's what scouts know him. He was the gunner at Louisiana. He's got a bunch of highlight reel hits if you look him up on YouTube. That is why they brought him here. If you ask me, this is DeShazier Everett without the dead person in a car, which is a horrible thing for me to say.
Yeah.
Let me revise that and pretend that didn't happen. Percy Butler is the new DeShazier Everett.
Right.
That's what he is.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yes, that's better.
Okay.
I mean, because it was an accident. It's not like he.
You guys who don't do a show, you understand that you spout off a bunch of nonsense, and sometimes stuff comes out that I go, wow, I really shouldn't have said that.
Oh yeah,
too soon.
I do it all the time. And
yeah, you do.
We all make those mistakes. Don't hate Steve for that mistake.
It was just kind of tacky and classless by me.
Yeah. I mean, look, honestly, before the accident happened, I was a big DeShazier Everett fan. You know that.
I'm still a fan of his play. It was play on the field.
Same. And what happened is a tragedy. So,
yeah, absolutely.
But all right, so let's talk about Butler. The thing I heard one of these draft prognosticator or talking heads say after the pick that I thought was interesting was they said he is one of the better natural free safeties in this draft. They just don't get highly valued. But like if you want a guy to play single high deep, that's him. That's what he does. He's not a strong safety. He is not a cover 2 guy. He is the single high guy, which is not sexy anymore. And he's not going to make a lot of big plays doing it, but he can do that. When you know what? I'm fine with that. Washington loves playing this 3 safety coverage still. Move McCain down to being the other strong safety then and put this guy as your deep safety.
Yeah, that's and if you look at the safety room,
right,
Butler has a chance to succeed. Let's review, shall we? Troy Apke, who's a special teamer only, basically. Yeah. Cam Curl, starter, legit. Derek Forrest, don't really know. Bobby McCain,
hurt, like right away last year,
Yeah, Bobby McCain, starter. Does he blow anybody away? No. Jeremy Reeves, in and out practice squad type, who's been in and out. 8 times he's looked good. But point is, Sean Taylor is not in this safety room.
Well, and your top 3 guys who he's competing with, Curl, McCain, Forrest. Forrest and Curl are both more strong safeties than anything else. Curl can play a little bit of free safety, not a lot. McCain is kind of a cornerback / free safety, I guess. Like he could do it. So there is a big opening for like a natural free safety anyway, because I don't think anyone we have does that perfectly. So maybe he has a chance that way.
Oh, I agree totally. Yeah, I think that's why they drafted a safety. They need a safety.
Yeah,
with Landon Collins gone or soon to be gone in a month, they do need somebody. To fill the role, could Butler be it? Yes. I mean, that's why I thought Kyle Hamilton would have been such a good pick in round 1.
Sure.
That dude is a free safety. But hey, it's what's done is done. But I do think that they have to view Butler realistically as the future's possible special teams captain type.
Yeah. Well, look, anyone you're drafting at this point, generally speaking, they're going to just be special teamers this year. That
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
You don't draft guys in the 5th, 6th, 7th rounds and hope they start. You draft them hoping they'll play special teams.
You know what I didn't check here? Give me 1 second because I want to
Okay.
see if Butler. I didn't check to see if Butler was a returner because he's got a lot of speed.
Yeah, he does have a lot of speed, and I didn't think about that part either.
I didn't either when I was real quick reviewing his stuff yesterday. No, I don't see. He doesn't have. At least Sports Reference does not have any returning stats listed for him.
And I don't see any touchdowns on his career.
No, so he must not be returner, but
yeah, or he wasn't that good at it.
Right.
All right. Well, why don't we move on to the pick that, quite honestly, might be the steal of the draft. 5th round pick, number 144. Washington selected Sam Howell, the quarterback out of University of North Carolina, a guy who a year ago was being talked about as a top 10 pick at one point. And he had a really bad year. Let's be clear about that. And now Washington gets him in the 5th round. But that is a steal to steal, in my opinion. Because even this draft, you and I probably both, 2nd, 3rd rounder is where he probably should have gone, right? Yeah. And as a quarterback, for a quarterback to fall that much further and you still get him, I love it. I love the
You know why he fell? He fell because he's very inconsistent. That's why he fell. I thought this was an A+ pick for Washington. I thought this was the best pick of the entire draft for him. Howell, I think, has starting potential. And like you said, I thought he was probably like a low 2nd rounder, and where I had him, I did our quarterback preview and I put him in like low 2nd round.
And because we needed a quarterback, I think we all watched some of Sam Howell at some point,
Yeah, well, Washington needs a quarterback. Look at their quarterback room. So here he is, 6'1", 218. He's a true junior, which isn't necessarily a great thing, but he has played 37 games, 713 completions, 63.8% completion percentage. He's got a ton of yards, over 10,000 yards, 92 touchdowns, 23 interceptions. If you don't know this about him, he's a rusher, had over 1,000 rushing yards and 369 carries. Now, it's not that yards per carry isn't great, but he can move, is my point. Last year, which is the year Alex was talking about, how it wasn't a good year, 62.5% completion percentage, 24 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Earned 2nd team All-ACC honors in 2020, not in 2021. What my view of him when I did the scouting report, I thought he had a strong arm, not an elite arm, but a strong arm. Reads the field well. There are times when you watch him, makes amazing throws, think that dude is an NFL starter. Then there are other times it's like, what are you thinking, dude? Good Lord, you're like Rex Grossman out there.
He has a bit of a Rex Grossman vibe.
Yeah.
Definitely has that.
He's just very inconsistent. That's why he dropped. He's so inconsistent. Now, you know who his comp is to me?
Who's that?
Taylor Heineke.
You think so?
With a better arm.
The comp I heard for him was actually Carson Wentz, in that he loves to throw the deep ball. He's not great in the short and intermediate game. And he's got that similar game
I think
style.
Howell is kind of a gamer, runs around, likes to run around.
Wentz used to, until he started getting hurt.
Maybe, but I don't know. And he's about the size. He's an inch taller than Heineke. To me, he's got a Taylor Heineke, like a legit drafted quarterback, Taylor Heineke vibe to him. That's my view. Maybe, I could be completely wrong. But that's how I see it.
I'm not going to say you're wrong. I'm just saying I heard someone else
Wentz
say
is a much bigger dude. Wentz is
6'5". Physically, yeah. Wentz is a giant. I mean,
yeah.
No, I wasn't a big Howell guy. I really wasn't initially. But it's worth the risk at that.
At round 5, you have a potential starter. I definitely think that. Now the question is, what does the team do with him? This year, because obviously Wentz is the starter and will be going forward. But do they keep 2? Do they keep 3? Do they put Wentz or Howell on the practice squad? Do they cut Taylor Heineke? If you want drama in training camp, it's the quarterback room. I think
there could be a little drama there with. And I don't think it's going to be Howell versus Wentz. It'll be Howell versus Heineke.
I didn't mean, I misspoke. I mean Howell versus Heineke.
Yeah.
But I think it's an open question as to who's the number 2 guy. whether they keep 3 quarterbacks. Washington hasn't kept 3 quarterbacks on the roster much, and a lot of teams don't. But I don't know, if you put a guy like Sam Howell in the practice squad, isn't that a bit dangerous that you're going to lose
Oh
him?
yeah, well, is there still the one spot on the practice squad where you can put a guy there and no one can touch him? Like, remember
Yeah,
there
the
was
rules are the same as last year.
so then there should be a designated, like, he's on a practice squad but you can't touch him.
Maybe, but maybe they have somebody else. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just think that's, if you want a good storyline for training camp, this is one of them.
That could definitely be. I think they are going to keep all 3 this year, because so just my gut reaction in terms of what you should do. If Hal is slightly damaged by a rough year, redshirt him. Don't redshirt him, obviously, because you can't. But he should be your number 3 quarterback. Maybe if Wentz goes down for the year, you reconsider something. But that would be what I would do. Just sit here, learn from Carson, learn from Taylor, learn from your QB coach. He's supposed to be pretty good, but I don't know,
Who knows?
So, like, sit here and develop. Go play with Diami Brown, and have fun.
I think, isn't it Diami?
Diami,
One of us is
Diami,
saying
whatever.
it wrong. I'm not
Diami,
100% sure.
yeah.
I think it's Diami.
Play with
Yeah.
Mr. Brown. Go on the side field. You guys just play catch.
Yeah, seriously. So I think this is by far Washington's best pick of the draft right here.
It is, just in terms of pure value.
Well, they needed a backup. This
Yeah.
team has searched for a quality backup quarterback
Right.
for a while. Now they have 2 of them, because I know some of you hate Taylor Heineke because you're totally unreasonable, but Taylor Heineke can be a starter.
Right.
You don't want him as a permanent starter. He was best kind of in spurts. But you've got a starter there, and then you've got a rookie with starting potential. I think that's not a bad quarterback room.
No, it's not a bad quarterback room at all.
Yeah.
And also he's on a 4-year contract that's going to keep him pretty cheap. You know, like, he's a quality player that you're not going to pay a lot of money for.
And if he pans out, maybe he's Carson Wentz's replacement. If he doesn't pan out, they can just let him go.
Yeah, exactly. He's a 5th rounder. You don't really worry about it.
Right.
All right, let's move on to the next guy. Cole Turner, tight end out of Nevada, picked 5 picks later at 149. Another good value pick from what I've seen. He's very much more of a Jordan Reed type of receiver or tight end, where you want him out there, making catches. You don't want him blocking. So just another weapon for Wentz to have out there. We know that Logan Thomas got hurt last year, and he's 30 now, so he's kind of going to be on the back 31. So he's kind of on the back end of his career. So getting another tight end in this room who can take that role on, probably a good move.
Yeah, I had Turner rated as, I think, the number 9 or 10 tight end. I'm trying to find it here.
Sure.
I think that they did need a tight end. I think it was a good selection in that regard.
They need depth at tight end. It's not like you need a star, but
yeah. I mean, you said it about Logan Thomas. He's 31 and injured.
Right.
It's not to say he's going to drift away immediately, of course, or anything like that. But I think they needed one. And John Bates, good prospect. Okay.
They see him as a blocker, though, not a.
But Samus Reyes is a shot in the dark who may not pan. He may not even be able to play football.
Yeah.
So I think they needed to draft a tight end, and I think Turner is a good one to do. So Turner is a guy who known as a pass catcher first.
Yeah. Well, he played wide receiver his first 2 years.
Yeah. Played 26 games in 4 years, 117 receptions, 1,370 yards, 11.7 yards per reception, 20 touchdowns. 2011, 11 games, 62 receptions, 677 yards, 10.9 yards per reception, 10 touchdowns. Ran a 4.76 at the combine, 17 bench press reps, jumped 27 inches of vertical leap, 10 feet even in the standing broad jump, 7.06 in the 3-cone drill, which is better than Dotson, incidentally. Scouts look at him as a pass catching prospect. Is negative. He's not a good blocker. He's not the Logan Paulson that you're going to be out there, Donnie Warren. This is not him. He's another pass catcher, but he's big enough. He's not like an H-back, like a Chris Cooley type. This is a traditional NFL tight end type. So
Right.
I think they needed somebody in I like him. Now I had him rated. I'm pulling up my draft preview here.
So
I had
while
him
you're
rated
looking
number
for that,
9.
okay, yeah, his last 2 seasons very consistent at Nevada. 600 yards his junior year, 677 his senior year, um, 9 and 10 touchdowns respectively. And keep in mind, 2020 they only played 9 games, so 2 less games versus 2021 where they played 11. So he's got good consistency there. I like that. I love the size. I love, he's prototypical tight end size. And with Wentz being a bigger quarterback, having a couple big tight ends who he can throw to on the inside is going to help.
Having a couple traditional NFL-sized tight ends could help. Now they have 3 of them.
Yeah. Yeah. I like what they're doing. So, like, I saw some people complaining about you have this very small wide receiver room now, which you do. They're all like 6 foot ish.
Other than Cam Sims, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, but if they're all on the inside and you use a lot of 2 tight end sets and the tight ends are the big guys, I'm fine with that.
And what did they do last year? They did use 2 tight end sets.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean that's very traditional NFL, right?
Yeah. Of course, at one point they were down to 1 tight end, but regardless,
they kept on trying to do 2 tight end sets. It didn't make.
They kept getting hurt. Like Logan Thomas was hurt, and Jameson Williams
last year
was
the whole
roster.
team got derailed. Yeah. It was a bad year injury wise.
So is this a good? No. I mean, I had him rated. I had
9.
him.
You
Yeah,
said,
and I said he draft projection was anywhere from round 5 to round 7.
Yeah.
He was the last guy I rated. On the list. So is another guy. Could they have got him lower? Maybe. But there was also, don't forget, a run on tight ends later in the draft too. So this is, certainly this is another guy who maybe some would have said you could get him later, but a good pick for a good need pick because they needed a tight end.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, if you look at what they did, they added a potential starting wide receiver, a potential backup running back, or not a backup running back and a backup tight end. You needed more weapons. You've got more weapons. You got one in each category for Carson Wentz now, and that's what you needed to do. Yeah. So I'm fine with that part.
Yeah, good pick. I think he's got decent hands, good prospect.
Again, you're not going to be rushing this guy out there. Like he's going to be probably 3rd on the depth chart.
I mean, he's a 5th rounder. I mean, you're not expecting to become Kellen Winslow.
No, although I do remember Cooley, I think, was a 4th rounder, and he slid right into that starting job.
Well, yeah. I mean,
sometimes
you can find Hall of Famers in round 5.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. There are probably more Hall of Famers from rounds 4, 5, and 6 than rounds 1 altogether.
Well, no, there's not at all. But
no.
Remember, I did an analysis of this. Remember?
Oh yeah. That's right.
No, it dropped off precipitously in the back half of the draft.
Okay.
The truth is, most of these back of the draft guys are gone in a few years.
Oh yeah. Well, look, 3 years, most of them are. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, next guy. Let's just move on. Chris Paul, the guard out of
6'0" guard in the NFL or in the NBA, who's got a cantankerous personality,
right?
And is now old.
Yes.
If you look up Chris Paul.
Yes, because I tried doing this before the show, and I was like, I can't find Chris Paul stats. Every time I search for him, I just go to like the Phoenix Suns page.
And newsflash, I have been 3 feet from Chris Paul. That guy isn't 6 feet tall. I don't care what his team says. There's no way he's the basketball player. I've been right next to him, and he is not 6 feet tall. But anyway,
were you taller than him? Because you're
no, I was
5'9",
sitting down.
right?
I was sitting. I'm 5. Yeah, I'm 5'8.5", so 5'9" in shoes.
Yeah.
I was sitting down though. When I was next to him, but no, there's no way he's not 6 feet. He's maybe like 5'10".
Okay.
He's not a shrimp. He's not like my height. I'm below average height.
Right.
By an inch or two, by an inch. But he is.
By an inch, not
he's
massive.
Probably 5'10", 5'11" at most.
You'd play center on Dan Snyder's basketball team.
Yeah, that's true. Dan Snyder's can't be more than 5'6" at most.
I've heard as low as 5'4". So.
Have you really?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think anyone knows the actual number because he won't admit it. But
he's too arrogant.
Yeah. Well, all right. So the guy we drafted, Chris Paul out of Tulsa, is 6'4", 331 pounds. He is much bigger than
much
Chris
bigger
Paul,
than
the basketball player.
Or me.
Yes, or you or me, because I'm only 5'10.5". So he towers over all of us and just weighs double what you probably weigh.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Good, interesting pick here, I guess. Like they needed some more depth uh on the interior. I don't think you can have high expectations. He's a
Here's
seventh
what I've
rounder.
learned about him. I think
What's
this is
that?
another good pick. He's another character guy.
Oh, okay.
5 years at Tulsa. He's working on an MBA as a
Do you know
graduate
what
student.
field? Well, business, I assume. But
MBA. Yeah,
yeah.
that's a Master of Business Administration. Um, he was a leader at his school. He was on he was something called he was a member of something called the NCAA Division I Student Athlete Advisory Committee. He was on a bunch of advocacy groups in Tulsa.
Hmm.
He's another high character guy that Ron Rivera likes. Experienced. He's versatile. What does Ron like most about offensive lineman versatility? He
Sure.
spent 2 years at right tackle, 2020, 2021. Then 2 years at guard before that, one left guard side and then one right guard.
Oh, so you even switched sides at one point.
Well, and he was a tackle, and he's probably not a tackle in the NFL.
No.
From what I read about him, again, I haven't watched 1 second of Chris Paul film, okay? But what I have read about him in scouting reports, there's not a lot. Believe me, you have to really hunt for him. Limited lateral mobility, so think like Eric Flowers, drafted in the 6th round or 7th round.
Okay.
I think that's what you're talking about. He's a phone booth guy, pretty strong.
Mm-hmm.
But is he going to be a pulling guard in a zone scheme? No. This is sort of like Brian Robinson's best friend, perhaps.
Okay, so he's let's try and bowl everybody over.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's great at that because there's a reason why he's drafted in round 7, okay? But that's kind of like, Plato's ideal chair, if you have like Plato's ideal, he had a philosophy where there's an ideal of everything you can never attain.
Sure.
And Chris Paul's ideal is the mauling, mashing, straight ahead. I'm going to run over Randy White because I'm Russ Grimm and not Mark Schlereth, and that's who. If everything works out for him, that's who he would be.
Okay.
But I don't think he is that, which is why he was drafted in the 7th round.
And look, he's going to probably be, sitting on the bench developing.
Absolutely.
So but they needed depth. So I don't mind the pick because they needed depth.
Would you care to guess how high this 6'4", 330-ish pound man could jump?
I'm not gonna guess. I'm bad at, especially with these big guys. I have no idea what the
27 inches.
That's impressive.
It is impressive for being a dude who's 6'4". If you just go to your wall, if you're listening to this, mark out 27 inches and say my feet can get to that point just from standing here.
Right.
And I'm 6'4", 320, 330 pounds. That's impressive.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think what probably my bookshelf is about that height. Like I couldn't jump up on my bookshelf.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
So in terms of what they're going to do with him, I do think he's another guy who has an opportunity in Washington because the only true lock they have at guard is Andrew Norwell.
Right.
Because this is another area that they ignored. You let Brandon Scherf go and you didn't bother to try to replace him because Norwell
they did with Norwell.
Well, no, Norwell is Eric Flowers' replacement.
Oh, okay.
So they really let both guards, both starters go, and they replaced them with one.
Norwell and Schweitzer is going to get it by default for now.
Right. And so there's an option for this guy if he shows he's a player. I mean, he wouldn't be the first guard drafted at the back of the draft to end up starting.
Oh, no. I mean, look, you hear it all the time, people who are critical about the whole Brandon Scherf pick. It's like you find starting guards in the 5th, 6th, and 7th round all the time. Like that's not unusual.
I mean, just look at this interior offensive line room they have. In alphabetical order, Zach Bailey, Bo Benchwall, those guys are practice squad players. Right. Deion Calhoun, practice squad. Keith Ishmael, a draft pick.
Yeah, and he's kind of a guard center. He plays both.
Nolan Laufenberg, practice squad type. Tyler Larson, center. Andrew Norwell, starter. Chase Rouye, center. Wes Schweitzer, there's your starter by default. Najee Torin and John Toth. So they've got a bunch of practice squatters plus Wes Schweitzer.
Yeah, and you got Chris, the guy that they drafted from LSU, who was supposed to be a right tackle. They're kind of moving him to guard. So, they're
Well, I put him in the tackle room. You're talking
okay.
about Sadiq Charles.
Yeah,
I
Sadiq
have him
Charles. I
listed as a
couldn't remember.
tackle.
I was drawing a blank on his first name. I didn't want to just
Yeah.
That's actually probably going to be one of the biggest competitions if you think about it for the offense. Who gets that other guard spot at this point?
This is why I'm saying Chris Paul could come in here and surprise you. I mean, I don't know he will, because again, this is just what I've read.
You can't expect it, but
no, of course not. He's a 7th round pick. But my point is, if I was sitting down with Chris Paul on day one, that's what I would tell him. You have a legitimate chance here if you perform.
Absolutely. All right, we go from Chris Paul to the other Chris they drafted, Christian Holmes, the cornerback out of Oklahoma State. I don't have a lot to say about it. They drafted a cornerback in the 7th round. Yippee. Okay. It's more depth.
Because I'm me, I always have stuff to say about these guys. This is yet another Ron Rivera character guy.
Sure.
First team all academic Big 12. Smart guy. Ron likes that. Ron doesn't like sleazeballs. He actually played at University of Missouri he was at Missouri for 4 years. He got hurt, missed 2017 due to a shoulder injury. So he's older. This guy, I didn't check his age. Could you check his age real fast? I bet he's 23.
I'll Google him.
So his first year was 2016, missed 2017, played 2018, 2019 at Missouri, then transferred to Oklahoma in 2020. And again, he's a graduate student, all academic Big 12. 48 games, 129 tackles, 103 solo, just 3 interceptions. 2014, 14 games, 39 tackles. He wasn't invited to the NFL Combine, so his 40 time is a bit of a mystery. But he is listed as running the 40 in high school at 4.53 seconds. So that's it's who knows if he's small, faster or slower than that, but that's his range. So he's not a burner. He's
24, by the way. He was born in 1997.
Yeah. Okay. So he's 24. So he's an older.
September of 97. So he'll be 25 by the start of the season.
So he's 1 year older than even I thought he was. Known as above average athlete, despite his 40 time, but I mean his best course of action here is to excel in special teams.
Yeah.
Well, the only thing I really saw about him is that he was successful in off-man coverage, and he seems to be good in run defense. Those two things are kind of what I know about him.
Yeah, I've seen that blurb about him in run defense.
Yeah,
which is interesting. So I guess he's probably a natural slot guy more than anything, at least as a corner. I know he'll probably play special teams.
I mean, he's got the size of an outside corner.
Yeah.
You don't really want a bigger dude without, by NFL standards, speed as a slot corner. So I actually think he's probably a backup outside corner.
Okay. All right. The cornerback room is going to be an interesting one too, because there could be a lot of turnover in the next 2 years, not this season, but going forward. So,
so let's also run through real fast. Yeah. I have a list. We didn't put it up this year mainly because I just didn't feel like it. And last year it was a waste of time. The undrafted free agent post.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't do that because they signed some initially and then they didn't sign anymore. And I kind of like our day 3 post being up on the top of the page. Okay, but here's who I know about. And this is courtesy of Yahoo Sports, by the way. Who wrote this? Brian Manning, whoever you are. Louisiana linebacker Farid Gardner.
Okay, yeah, I'd heard about that.
The tweet Standing put out was finished second in tackles last season, and obviously he was Percy Butler's teammate, so they know each other. Sam Houston State wide receiver Jaquez Izzard. Forgive me if I pronounced that wrong. Oklahoma outside line offensive lineman Tyrese Robinson. Notre Dame linebacker Drew White. Let's see. Story continues. Another quarterback, Southeastern Louisiana quarterback Cole Kelly. I don't know anything about him. Georgia Tech wide receiver Kyrick McGowan.
Looks like Kyrick to me, yeah.
Yeah, Arizona State tight end Curtis Hodges. And by the way, Hodges, this is the sign. So they gave Hodges a signing bonus. According to Tom Pelissero, $25,000 signing bonus, $100,000 base salary guaranteed. That means he was a priority undrafted free agent. So watch out for him. So of this group, watch out for him. So, but that's undrafted free agents that I have. I don't know anything about any of them.
Yeah, I don't know much. The only thing I know, just because I can see it on the picture, is the linebacker they signed from Notre Dame, Drew White, was the team captain.
Oh,
so,
another one. There you go. Another character, dude.
Yep, another. And, I would assume getting that at Notre Dame kind of a big deal. Just
sure. Yeah, absolutely.
It is Notre Dame. So
there's your undrafted free agent class, kids. Yeah. I would watch out for the tight end more than anybody.
Watch out for the tight end and the linebackers by default, because we need linebackers.
They currently have no linebackers.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. So, there's actually a good shot that at least one of those, because they had two, right, that you mentioned. So there's a good shot that one of them is at least going to make the roster.
Farad Gardner, and then the Notre Dame kid, Drew White.
Yeah.
And Cole Kelly, probably a camp arm. Who knows? He's going to get his shot, but the odds of him making a roster, slim.
Yeah. I would assume he's not high on the list for making
Could you put him on the practice squad? I mean, maybe, but that's a lot of quarterbacks.
Yeah. You honestly don't need to. You need 3. You don't need 4.
I mean, well, look, if he proves that he's outstanding and really blows everybody away,
sure.
Maybe they'll keep him on the practice squad just because they don't want to get rid of him. I mean, all these guys have a shot to prove themselves, or if nothing else, they'll prove himself. He'll put some great film out, and some other team will sign him.
Yeah. I guess I got to go watch some Cole Kelly film. Good luck finding it.
Well, what school did I say he was from?
Southeastern University.
Southeastern Louisiana. Okay.
Yeah.
Somebody around here may know. So I'll have something on Cole Kelly by next week.
Steve's
gonna be my mission in life.
Coach's number.
I have cold call coaches before.
I know you have.
I cold called the long snapping, the country's leading long snapping expert last year, and surprisingly he talked to me.
Yeah. Well, he's happy to talk to anybody.
Hey, but listen, that's how I knew.
Cheeseman.
Nobody knows. Nobody knows why they traded up to get Cheeseman. I do.
Yeah.
Because he told me there were 3 NFL quality long snappers, and if you noticed, the guy from Michigan, whose name is escaping me right now, got drafted like 2 or 3 picks above where Washington traded to, and that was why they were freaking out, going, "Oh, what happened? We don't have one."
Yep,
Pay attention to context, people.
Yeah. I mean, look, and that's why I don't get mad about the trades back, because you got to pay attention to the context of what was going on with this team. They needed more picks. So, all right.
I mean, but I do think that Kyle Hampton could have been one of Scott McLuhan's. I can't remember which one was it Blue Chip was better? I can't remember.
Yeah, Blue Chip is the best. Blue Chip starter or.
Is that what it was? Yeah. So anyway, I think Kyle Hampton could have maybe been that, but it is what it is. So you never gave your grade. I said C+.
I would actually probably go in the B- range more than the C range. The only thing that annoys me is that they didn't get a linebacker early, because I thought that was probably the top need on defense. But you know what? You filled a lot of other holes. You added a lot of weapons on offense. I'm happy about that. That
technically speaking, they didn't get a linebacker early or late. But
yes,
go ahead.
They didn't get a linebacker. Period. Correct. But I liked that. To me, the biggest thing was they needed to put some offensive weapons around Carson Wentz, and they did that. So
yeah, absolutely.
I'm happy.
Washington needed a wide receiver in the worst way.
They needed a wide receiver. They needed a running back. They needed a tight end. They got all of them.
Yeah.
They could, if they had drafted another wide receiver, I'd have been okay with it.
It just didn't blow me away. Objectively speaking, to be honest, they didn't blow me away.
No.
It's okay.
This was a bad draft class anyway for getting blown away.
In terms of pure talent, yeah.
Yeah. One thing we didn't mention at the beginning, but I went back and checked. This is the first time since 1991 that the top 5 picks were all defensive players.
Oh, I know. I saw that.
Yeah, that's kind of rare, man.
Well, that's also because there was no quarterback that blew everybody away.
No court, but you'd expect at least like a left tackle to go or something.
I was a little surprised that Derek Stingley got drafted over Gardner.
I was too. I was surprised by that.
I mean, because he did, and he's had 2 years of not much, you know.
Well, so here's the thing: if Stingley can get healthy, he's a Hall of Fame caliber.
An All-Pro, yeah.
Yeah, he's that good. Gardner, I think, is just fundamentally like he's got better fundamentals. Stingley's a playmaker. So
yeah, that's fair enough. But I don't know. I'd be nervous about.
Oh, I would too.
About him.
It's a high risk with the injury, and he didn't play as well afterwards.
Of course, look who drafted him, the Jets.
Yeah,
right? Wasn't he the Jets?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So that would ought to tell you something.
Yep. Well, regardless, that was an interesting top of the draft. So, I think that wraps up this week's episode, guys. We will see you again next week. As I don't know what's coming up. Something's always coming up in the NFL.
Well,
are we going to start our position group stuff?
Well, yeah, we are. We're going to start our position group breakdowns. For the NFL, the schedule release is going to be coming up on May 12th. And I think Chris and I did a whole segment on this, on the marketing aspects of this on IJB. It's Just Business. Please listen.
Last week.
But anyway, there's like a dribble of stuff, but I think the main schedule release is May 12th. So that's the next thing. And so for us, that'll be
after the show.
2 shows from now. Yes.
Yeah. And we're doing show is going to be a little quieter.
We're doing interior offensive line first because I wanted to get that out of the way.
Yeah. Rip the Band-Aid off.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right, guys. We will talk to you next week. Later.